Welcome to Season 1, Episode 2 of Life Beyond Loss, the podcast. This is a guest show where we share the most amazing and inspirational stories of navigating grief and loss through to healing and transformation. I'm your host, Louise Kresick, grief and loss coach, and today we're talking to Joe Roe about how losing her stepmom, her dad, and her mental health led her to becoming a mental health and wellness coach. Listen in to find out more about Joe's journey from loss to finding her life purpose. On today's show is the fabulous Joe Roe. She's a mental health wellness coach and just an all-round kind of warrior, really. So hi Joe, welcome to the show. It's really lovely to have you here.
Hi Louise, thank you for inviting me and I'm really excited to have this conversation with you today.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. So what I usually do is just kickstart the show by just let's share with the audience maybe just a little bit about you. Who are you and what do you do?
Okay, so my name's Joe Roe. I do spell it like a bloke because my surname's R-O-E. So my first name is Joe, J-O-E like a man. I'm all female though, and I'm a partner. I live with my fiance, Tim. I'm a daughter. I've got sisters and a brother. Lots of lovely friends. I'm a mum to 3 doggies, and I'm also, as you mentioned, a coach and an NLP practitioner, and I also train others through their coaching diploma as well. So I suppose from a purpose point of view about me, it's about making that positive, meaningful difference to the lives of people with mental health. And that'll come in as part of today's show, following my own mental health journey. I wanted to share a bit about that. So like you mentioned, I'm a mental health wellness coach, and I also specialise in bipolar as well.
Fabulous. And I know that your story, isn't it, is a big part of, you know, your why, your purpose and what you do. And when I heard your story, Joe, I was really kind of, you know, inspired by the journey that, you know, you've been through. So would you mind sharing a little bit about your story?
Yeah, sure. So if I talked it maybe from a loss point of view, because it did actually start when I pinpoint it back from loss. And one of the things is that losing something or someone is part to me of life. You're always going to lose people around you who you love, and it's something people don't really say very often or tell you, but it's actually something that happens in life. It's a guarantee, and acceptance is a huge word for me. So it's about taking away something or someone in your life, and to me it's very much a life lesson and part of a rich tapestry of my own personal life journey. And I know loss means different things to different people. So if I maybe share the start of my journey, might be the good place to start, and then work through that. How does that sound?
That would be absolutely fabulous. We'd love to hear about the start then of your story.
Okay, brilliant. So it goes way back when. It was back in 2011, 2012. I first of all lost my stepmom to cancer, and following that, within less than a year, I also lost my dad to cancer as well. However, that was a very, very long, painful journey for me at the time, as I was very close caring him and almost watching him die through that and going through that process. And once he passed away, my own health really started to suffer. So I was almost like Superwoman. I went into Superwoman mode when I was caring for him, and working full time and non-stop, and then finishing work, and then doing the shopping, doing his caring needs, and then going to sleep and starting all over again. It was like I was on a hamster wheel. And I literally burnt myself to the ground, and it affected my body and my mind. So first of all, probably about 8 months after my dad passed away, I started with chronic fatigue syndrome, and I actually ended up bedridden for 3 months. It's like I turned into an old lady overnight. Wow. And luckily I live in a bungalow, so I could make it to the toilet. And my mission every day was because I'm very goal driven, and this is before I even started officially coaching, even though I'd been a manager for 12 years, developing people. My mission was to have a bath every day. But my muscles became weak so much that I couldn't even pull myself out the bath from the taps. And then after that, my health affected my mental health. So I had my first ever bipolar episode following this. And I didn't know what hit me. I didn't know what bipolar was. And I totally lost touch with reality. And I also had psychosis with it. So I had hallucinations and delusions. So lots of weird and wonderful things going off there, which I'm quite happy to talk about in more detail. What then happened though is I then lost my job. So not only did I lose my mind, and I was in hospital, following that I had a long recovery, and I lost my job. And I also lost lots of friends that were around me, that I thought were friends, and actually I lost some of the friends that were important to me at that time in my life. More than anything as well, I lost my lifestyle. So I had a very, like I say, high-flying job, big social life. It was very much play hard, work hard. That was a bit of one of my mottos at the time. But I didn't stop and I didn't learn, and I had a second bipolar episode in 2015, and I lost my mind again. So you can see the word lost coming up quite a lot, Louise.
Absolutely, yeah.
And actually, though, it led to finding my life purpose. It was, and I know this is a word you love, it was part of my transformation. It led to my meaningful purpose and just having a knowing of what I wanted to do in life. It just clicked that I wanted to help other people and make that difference to people with mental health. I had early warning signs of stress, and it could have been nipped in the bud earlier. My own health maybe wouldn't have happened, and I don't regret what's happened because it does lead me to where I am now. So yeah, I have. Yeah, sorry, Louise. Yeah.
No, I was just going to say, it totally resonates with me, and I think this is the more of these podcasts I'm recording, the more the commonality is around the fact that, you know, through all this kind of loss and you know, the real lows that people have been to has really been kind of like a life-changing experience, but almost for the better. Well, always really, I think, for the better for most of us. That's what I'm kind of hearing, and that's really, really interesting. And I wanted to ask you as well, because what you said about those early days really resonated with me, because my dad, as soon as I lost my mum, my dad started displaying signs of dementia. And so I stepped into that. I almost stepped into my mum's role. I had a little sister, and I became the mother, and I stopped being the daughter and playing that role, and it was almost like you say, the superwoman role of the caring but still holding down the job and doing all of the different things. And I wondered whether for you as well, it kind of, you feel like looking back now, it almost sort of delayed your grieving process as well, because you'd already lost your stepmom, and then your dad became ill. And so whether you feel that just stepping into that role and just doing had almost sort of disrupted your grieving process and being able to have that time for yourself. What do you think?
Absolutely. It's that phrase of carry on regardless. It's that British stiff upper lip. It's that I've learned a lot from it of how not to do it now. And looking back, definitely there was very much, it was like almost going into a fast pace. Like I say, the hamster wheel, it just became a wheel that I was on and couldn't get off. And when it comes to grief, it didn't start to manifest till later on. And I think I was trying to understand, I think I was almost going into my dad's fear of death, and actually I may or may not have had fear. I was projecting on my dad how awful it must have been for him. So I was trying, I suppose, to minimize his fear of dying by being there and being that support. And I've learned that I maybe should have stepped away a little bit more and looked after myself more, and that's something I wanted to really start to talk on and touch on how that was part of my healing as well. I think it's just vitally important that we do sometimes just take that step back and take care of ourselves. And I know it sounds a bit cheesy, a bit corny, a bit fluffy, but self-care, it is totally underrated, totally. And it is that we need to fill our own cup up first before we can serve others.
Absolutely. I totally agree. And the other thing that strikes me about your story as well is this kind of idea of multiple loss, which again, I'm not sure whether people out there kind of experience this for themselves as well, or whether it's there's an understanding that this happens. But you have one loss, like significant loss, i.e. the person, the loved one that you've lost, but then it's almost like the knock-on effects of that creates this multiple loss, like you talked about, losing certain friends or people around you, losing your health, sort of like, the knock-on effects of that aren't always sort of recognised, I guess, or even expected. I certainly didn't expect to lose myself.
And I think, and totally, and it's mindset sometimes as well. And when you're in that mindset, which is totally, and I think we need to acknowledge and accept emotion and allow it. It does. It did for me at that point, because I didn't take care of myself in the process and have asked for the support that I maybe needed. It did have an impact then of really like a domino effect: the health, then the job, then the friends, then the lifestyle, and everything else around me. It was like, it just had that effect. And I totally agree that it can certainly have that domino effect. But we also have choices. But when we're in it, we don't necessarily see it. And for me, I needed to learn that for myself, I think, to be able to look back and look at it more objectively now.
Yeah, I was going to ask you what's kind of like maybe the biggest sort of life lesson that you learned in all of that then?
It's a biggie. Life lesson that I learned from all that. I think it is that there's a lot that I wanted to share with you, but I think sometimes we have to experience the dark to appreciate the light. And that's where maybe go with that grief more and work with the grief more rather than fighting and working against it.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that. And again, like you say, when you're in it, you don't always kind of, it's difficult to sometimes see that perspective. But then I guess, you know, coming through it, looking back, you realise then, and then like sort of you're able to maybe future proof yourself a little bit more. Or maybe the next time that loss kind of comes up. So I wanted to ask you then as well also about this healing part of your journey then. What is it that, you know, really helped you to heal from your loss?
So I think from, so now looking at it as part of this purpose that I've got, it's, I've improved my health now, and I've got a job that I love, and I've got supportive friends and, you know, meaningful people around me, and a lifestyle that I've accepted. So I just wanted to maybe talk about how that came about, really. So from a healing point of view, personally, and I think everybody's different, coaching and NLP had such a huge positive impact on me. I've had mindfulness as well, CBT, counselling, and I believe they've all got different parts to play. But coaching and NLP became the game changer for me. So as part of my healing, I had a bit of because I had this knowing and a bit of an enlightenment where I wanted to go. I had a motivation to work towards where I wanted to go, rather than being motivated away from where I wanted to be in life. So my mindset was already focused on my future, and I think rather than being stuck, it was finding out ways of becoming unstuck so that I could be well. So for me, balance, the two words that are really important to me is being balanced and grounded. They're the words that are in my blood now. It's just so important to remain balanced and grounded. So my own health, and like I say, I'm going to go back to that word self-care again. It's just so important. So it's simple things like just being in nature and taking my dog for a walk, sleep routine. So having a nice hot bath, lavender on my pillow, shutting down everything, just so that I'm sleeping well. Eating, and these are all the things that I weren't doing when I was taking care of my dad. Eating well, so having really good mood foods, staying hydrated, drinking plenty of water, and having a gratitude attitude, as I like to call it. So I document things I'm grateful for. So I think even when we're in that process of loss, we can still look at things that we're grateful for in life. So I think it's important to appreciate what we have got as well as what we've lost. And having fun is such a huge part of my life. And it's almost when we're in that loss, we don't allow ourselves that fun or being able to laugh because we think it's almost a conflict. And in a conflict that starts to go off, and we can have fun still, and we can be that with people or on our own. We can have that, even if it's a little giggle or a smile. It sometimes, and for me personally, it was about allowing myself to do that. And my own continual development was important to me as well. So I knew that I wanted to follow this path of coaching other people. So my own development became quite a nice focus for me, without putting too much pressure on myself, because I knew it was leading me to where I wanted to be. So whatever that healing is for people and what that means to you, it's really starting to focus on what does self-care mean to you? What's important to you in your life?
Yeah, I love that. It's asking that really lovely question of what does it mean to you? And I often talk about as well people creating their own toolkit, their own, you know, developing their own little unique toolkit. So everything that you put into that toolkit, you know, for me it was mindfulness, it was being able to journal, a bit like you, it was sort of being out in nature, spending time with good friends. I think it's really important that people just spend a little bit of time just thinking about, you know, what is it that's going to really help me and serve me for this part of the journey that I'm on. Would you agree?
Yeah, definitely. And we don't stop and think about it. And I think sometimes even just allowing ourselves to grab a cuppa, go to a place you like. It could be in your garden or a room in your house. Just maybe sit down and just spend 5 minutes just thinking about, even if you aren't enjoying them right now, maybe looking at the things that you do enjoy in life, the things that do feed your soul, and that can then sometimes just give you an idea of what's maybe the areas that we can work on more at that time, because it's that getting into the, we don't stop, we carry on and we carry on. So I think if I gave myself some advice now, it would be to just have that 5 minute cuppa and look at and stop and just look at what self-care I can start to give myself right now, rather than leaving it too late.
Yeah, I love that. That's a brilliant little kind of tip there for people as well. And that was going to be my next question for you as well. So what else would you kind of, offer to anybody right now who's maybe they're in the earlier stages of grieving and loss as well? What kind of words of encouragement would you offer to them?
So, like, I suppose some of it goes back to what I've just been saying, allowing time and space. It's just so important just to allow some time and space, even if it is just 5 minutes every day. Half an hour would be fantastic, any more would be brilliant, but even just 5 minutes, just allowing that time and space. Slow down would be something that I would definitely advise myself if I could go back to myself and say that. Listen to your body and your mind. It does give you signs. It tells you. It's the first thing that will start to tell you. If we just go in ourselves sometimes and listen to our body and our mind, it gives us signs, be it from a headache, right through to starting to feel stress. You can feel it in your shoulders or in your jaw. These are early warning signs that actually we need to start to listen and maybe change things in our life. So it's about maybe living a better balanced life, and that's what brings me happiness, and as well as helping others. So I suppose, and I've shared this quote before, but it's just such a huge quote, and the reason it's so meaningful for me is because when I was in hospital with my own health at my very, very, very lowest, it just appeared. And it was like it was meant to be. So I stuck it up on the wall in hospital, and it was my guidance. So I just wanted to share that. And it is, and once the storm is over, you won't remember how you made it through, how you managed to survive. You won't even be sure whether the storm is really over. But one thing is for certain, when you come out of the storm, you won't be the same person who walked in. That's what the storm's all about.
That is, wow. I absolutely love that quote as well. It just kind of summarizes that whole sort of, I guess, the thinking around, what people are going through and what can happen on the other side of that, what's possible. I just think that's fantastic. So I'm so pleased that you were able to join me today, Joe, on the show, because I think you've brought a really, really valuable kind of sort of perspective on loss. And, because of your own sort of personal journey and what you've been through, the emphasis on self-care and looking after yourself and taking that time to just pause and check in with yourself in that process is just such an important message for people. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And I'd love you to just let people know as well how they can get in touch with you.
Yeah, sure. So so it's Joe Roe, and like I say, it's spelt like a male. It's Joeroe. I'm on Facebook, so you can find me at Joe Roe Mental Wellness coach, but also you can find me on Twitter, and also I've got my own website. So yeah, just hook up with me. Happy to chat with people. So yeah, do get in touch.
Thank you. Thanks for everything you've shared today, and for being here.
You're welcome. And I just wanted to just end on a note, really, that it's important to find our own support network, and also that healing, for me, it's like turning from a caterpillar to a butterfly. And I just wanted to share that because that's how it's felt for me.
Yeah, absolutely. It's that kind of transformative journey that, I think looking back, we kind of understand that good things can absolutely come from loss, in a really positive way. It's just kind of, hopefully, sharing stories like this as well are going to help people that are maybe in the early stages, in the midst of it, and just hopefully offer them a little bit of hope.
Yeah.
So
and I hope to. Yeah.
Thank
You're
you
welcome.
very much.
Thanks for the invite. Thanks very much.
You're welcome.